Okay, this lesson is on complex numbers. Complex numbers are imaginary numbers. Basically, what you've got is I is defined as the square root of -1. So what you have, I say anytime you see a square root of a negative number, it's negative, it's angry, it screams, ah, and it pulls out an I. Okay, so for example, if you had the square root of 9, that's 3. The square root of -9 would be 3i. Okay. So the square root of 81, the square root of 81 is 9. But the negative pulls out and it's an I. 55 is I square root of 55 because you can't take the square root of 55. And you can't break it down either. 55 is 5 and 11, so it doesn't break down. You can't take any numbers out of that. But 98, it's negative, so it says I. So you pull out an I, and then you simplify the square root of 98. Now, I break those down. That's 2 and 49. And then 49 is 7 and 7. So the square root of 49 is 7, so that comes outside with the I, and then the 2 stays inside. Okay, and just a quick lesson on square roots if you forgot that. Like, I always tell my kids, I teach high school, if you break, say, the square root of 20, you know what, let's just be crazy and make it the negative square root of 20. The negative makes it an I. 20 is 4 and 5 and 2 and 2. So technically 20 is 2 and 2 and 5. I say that the square roots, all the little numbers, go to a little church to get married in the summertime, and the preacher says 2 become 1. So they get married and come outside. And so then because you have an I, you just put the negative. The negative, you have an I. And then, so on these, now we're multiplying them together. So we have the square root of 21, that's negative square root of 21. Nope. Hold on, just kidding. That's I square root of 21. So I, and then I square root of 21. So you have I squared and then the square root of 21 squared. Well, the square root of 21 squared is just 21. I squared is the square root of -1 times the square root of -1, which is the square root of -1 squared, which is -1. So just make a note. Anytime you see I squared, that's just -1. From here on out, we're going to replace I squared with -1. So the answer here would just be -21. Okay? Or technically, you could have just went the square root of -21 squared, the square and the square root cancel, and it's -21. You could do it that way as well. But just for good measure, let's do it the way we're supposed to. That's I square root of 5 times I square root of 30. The two i's multiply together and make I squared. And then that's the square root of 5 times 30 is 150. We're going to break that down. That's 15 and 10, 5 and 3, and 5 and 2. So I have 2 5s, a 3, and a 2. The 2 5s get married. The preacher says 2 become 1. So that's 5 square root of 6. And then my I squared makes the whole thing negative. So it's -5 square root of 6. So in this situation, what we're going to do is it's called split the fraction. See, if you have a number underneath two different things, you just split it up underneath both. So we have 15 over 5 minus, I'm going to go ahead and pull out my I, the square root of 75 over 5. Well, the 15 over 5 is just 3. The square root of 75 we're going to break down. 75 is 5 and, nope, 3 and 25. It would have been 5 and 15, but I feel like 3 and 25 makes more sense. So that's 5 and 5. So these two 5s, it's like 5 and 5 and 3. 2 become 1. So that's 5i square root of 3. What I'm doing is I am replacing, this is the highlighter, yeah, the square root of 75 with the 5 square root of 3. And then it's just over 5. We've already done that one. We did that already. So then that 5 cancels, so it's 3 minus I squared root of 3. So as we're simplifying. Now we're adding and subtracting. Adding and subtracting is easy. We are just going to combine like terms. So I've got the 4 and the negative 5, and then I have the negative 5 and the 8. So 4 plus negative 5 is negative 1, and then negative 5 plus 8 is 3. Those are easy. Whoops. Now this one, we are subtracting an extra parentheses. So I always tell my kids it's KFC, keep, flip, change. Keep the first one the same, flip the sign in the middle, and then change both your signs. So now I have negative 10 and negative 5. I'm adding them. And then I also have a 7, ooh, that's bright, and a 3i. Sorry, I didn't realize that was that bright. So negative 10 and negative 5 is negative 15, and then 7 plus 3 is 10i. Now we're the product, so we're going to FOIL, okay? So we're just going to FOIL it out. Remember that it's first, outside, inside, last. So first, 5 times 2 is 10. Outer, 5 times negative 7i is negative 35i. Inner, 3 times 2 is 6i. And last, 3 times negative 7, hold on. Let me erase that really quick. Okay. 3 times negative 7 is negative 21i squared. Now, go ahead and combine the 35 and the 6. That's negative 29i. Bring down the 10. And then that's minus 21 times, remember that I squared is negative 1. So technically that's plus 21. So bring everything down. Then we combine the 10 and the 21 and get 31 minus 29i. Okay. B, when you're squaring a binomial, you always write it twice. So it's 4 minus 5i times 4 minus 5i, and then we're going to FOIL. 4 times 4 is 16, and I'm going kind of fast because I don't want this video to be more than about 10 minutes. So just feel free to slow me down or pause me if you need to. So I fold that out. Now I'm going to combine my like terms. So that's negative 40i. Remember that I squared is negative 1. I'm just going to bring my 16 down. So that's minus 25. Then I'm going to combine the 16 and the negative 25 together. So 16 take away 25 is negative 9. And then I'm just going to bring down the minus 40i. Then we're going to fold this last one. 9 times 9 is 81. 9 times 8 is 72. Then 72 again. Minus 81i squared. So combined, that's negative 144i. Remember that the I squared is negative 1. So that's plus 81. Then bring down that 81. I did that wrong. That should be plus right there. And that cancels. And 8 times 8 is 64. Wow. Hold on. You know what? We're just going to start that over. What you should have just learned is your teacher messes up too, especially when she's trying to go too fast. 9 times 9 is 81. 9 times 8 is plus 72i minus 72i minus 64i squared. The 72's cancel, and then that's minus 64 times negative 1, which is plus 64. So 81 plus 64 is 145. Sorry about that, guys. I'll try to make a note. And now, these are just kind of rules. So I'm just going to fill in this chart. Remember that I squared is negative 1. And I to the fourth would be I squared squared, which is positive 1. So I to the first is I. I squared is negative 1. I to the third would be I times negative 1, which is negative I. I to the fourth is 1. And then it repeats. They literally just repeat. So you're just cycling through. So what you do is every power of 4, so I'm just going to go ahead and write those out again. I to the first is I to the second is negative 1, I to the third is negative I to the fourth is 1. And it just repeats. So it's like when I get 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So what you do is you figure out how many times will 4 go into 33. 4 goes into 33, 8 times 4, with 1 left over. So 32 takes me to I to the fourth. So 33 goes back to here, so that's just I. And then 14, where'd it go? Okay, sorry. 14 would be, let's just do it this way. How about I to the 12th? I'll show you another way. Times I to the second. So I to the 12th is just 1 because that's a multiple of 4. And then you have 2 left over, which is negative 1, and then that's negative 1. So I think that's it. Yeah, and that's where this video is going to stop. Maybe. Bye.